Welcome to Design 30. My name is Jason Bilyeu, and in this podcast, I provide design strategies and tools to improve creativity, innovation, and overall design confidence. I think it's that time of year when we're all looking back over the past 12 months and just kind of reviewing how everything went, thinking through how the year went, what you've done, what you've been doing, what things you committed to over the past year, and how those things went, what were the results, thinking through what things maybe you wanted to do this last year, it didn't get to. And then, of course, as we come to the new year, everyone's thinking through, okay, how do I want to change that? What do I want to adjust for this upcoming year? What do I want to improve at? What do I want to maybe focus on? What things do I need to cut out of my life that I've been doing that perhaps aren't worth the time, aren't providing the return on the input of time, things like that. So I've been thinking a lot about this podcast, and it's been almost 1.5 years since it originally launched. This episode will be, I believe, episode number 73, which is pretty crazy. I think I've done a pretty good job of releasing an episode almost every single week. I know there's been a few where I haven't done that, or a few where maybe I replayed an older episode. But for the most part, over the last 1.5 years, there's been about an episode a week of the Design 30 podcast, which is pretty wild. It's something I never, when I started, they say most podcasts fail in the first 5 or 10 episodes. So getting to episode number 73 is, something I'm fairly proud of. I think it's a pretty big feat compared to the vast majority of podcasts that never make it this far. And in total, I think I've made over 80 episodes with the different bonus episodes and things like that, which I don't actually put an episode number on. But yeah, so it's been quite a while. I've put a lot of time into this. Got a lot of feedback from people that I know, friends and family, and just hearing what people think of it, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. And one thing that, as I think through over the past 1.5 years, I don't think I've quite nailed down on here is a specific market niche. And whenever you have, whether it's a product or whether it's a podcast or it's music, you kind of have to have this market niche that you're shooting for. Who are the people that you're actually creating this podcast for? Who are the people that you're creating this product for? And if you don't have that well defined, I think it can cause you to design a product that really doesn't serve any group of people all that well. Maybe it's a little bit too broad, and it doesn't solve a problem for a specific group of people well enough to be providing value. And you can have the same thing, I believe, with the podcast. Maybe you're speaking a little too broadly, and it could be interesting, could be something that people enjoy when they listen to it. But if it's not providing enough value to that specific group of people, then it's going to have a tough time catching on. It's going to have a tough time growing. It's just going to have a hard time providing value. That's really what it comes down to, is it providing value? And so I've been asking myself that question a lot with this podcast, and and there's a whole sea of podcasts out there. That's nowadays, it feels like almost everyone has a podcast, right? Especially, I don't know if you're even remotely famous, most people have a podcast of some kind, and people who, now it doesn't even matter if you're famous or well-known or any of that. So many people have one, which is really cool. There's access to so much information and so many people's stories and all of these different things. But you need to know, or at least for me, feel like I need to know that I'm providing value to people through this podcast and providing value through the efforts that I'm putting into it. And so that's something that I'm not 100% sure if I'm doing that. So it's something I would really appreciate people to perhaps reach out. If you're someone who is one of the consistent listeners to this podcast, it would be awesome to hear from you. Just hear what value am I providing, or why do you keep coming back to this podcast? What is it that keeps you listening? And if you have other ideas on different topics or a way to, I think they call it niche down and figure out a little bit more of a specific niche for this podcast, I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Of course, you can reach out on social media or also just shoot me an email. My email address is learndesign30 So feel free to send an email there. But yeah, so this has been the question that I've been just kind of thinking through, spending time trying to evaluate, and just am I providing value with this podcast? So with that in mind, I think right now it's a good time, end of the year, kind of going into 2024, is to step away and just take a break from this podcast for a little while. And I don't have a specific date or a specific amount of weeks, but it's going to be probably some significant portion of time where I'm just going to step away and take a break from it, think through what I want 2024 to look like, what effort I want to put in, where I want to put that effort, and where's the best area where my effort can be used to actually provide value to other people when I'm provide value in teaching design to other people, in just learning more about design myself. I think that's something that I've thought a lot about recently. It's just, I think I'm at an age, at a time in life where I really just need to keep gaining more experience, right? And doing more things, working on more projects, just kind of expanding that range of experience, I think is really important. I'll still keep writing on Medium and Substack. So if you're already following Design 30 there, those will still be coming out periodically. I think writing is a really good way to help understand what you're doing and understand what you should do next. And just in the end, just a really, really good way to think. It's just to write it down, read through it, edit it. It's a really good way to essentially think through and edit your own thoughts, is one way to put it. So there will still be those coming out. The information is still going to be there. I'll also be still somewhat active on social media. So I'm not going to be totally gone, but just this podcast, this weekly episode coming out every Monday, there's going to be a little of a break on that. So again, as I mentioned, if you're someone who listens a lot and you've got thoughts and ideas, or even just your reasons for listening, those are things that I would be really valuable to me to hear, and I can use that to help decide what direction I want this to go in the future, what direction I want Design 30 to go in the future. So that would be greatly appreciated if you have any of that feedback that you want to provide. So that's essentially all I have for this episode. It's time for me in this podcast to figure out what's next, figure out what the next evolution of this is, the next evolution of Design 30. So I'm going to be signing off here for potentially quite a while. It's been a really good year and a half. It's been a really fun time just coming up with these different episode titles and topics, and diving into those and figuring out ways to communicate them. And I've learned a lot about just how to communicate these ideas and how difficult it actually is. So how do you communicate something interesting and useful in a 20 to 30 minute podcast? And then how do you actually convey that with in an interesting way, in a way that keeps people listening. And it's definitely a skill. Doing this has given me a lot of respect for people who do these podcasts and just keep you captivated the entire episode, right? Especially these solo episodes, when they can just keep you listening that entire time. It's definitely a skill. It's something that's not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of practice, a lot of preparation, and a lot of effort. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been really good. It's been really beneficial. So definitely no regrets whatsoever on the amount of effort and work that I put into this. But I think it's definitely time to figure out what that should look like going forward. So I'm going to leave it there for this episode. As always, remember, design more, despair less, and I will see you in who knows how long.